Why is it that we live differently and we don't go to school and stuff? Than other kids?
Well, Mummy and I made a choice quite a few years ago when you were quite little. We wanted to spend more time with you.
It's the life.
It is.
What's a real timber?
I'm going to try as hard as I can because I know Maria would have wanted me to try.
Gratulerer med dagen, mamma. Kyss fra Frøy. Elsker deg.
Don't want anybody falling in the water this time, all right?
It'll be a good adventure then. What's going to happen today?
I have to sell the farm here to earn enough to be able to have a loan by myself.
It's like I've lived here all my life today. Prison.
We'll have to ask them if you're allowed to carry knives, but I'm not so sure.
I have it in my bag.
I'm thinking maybe we could just sort of get lost. Sorry, we didn't find school this morning.
Yeah, do it, Daddy.
It does feel like a failure.
I'm scared, Daddy.
Hi, I'm Chuck Braverman. This is another episode of Westdoc Online. Today we're bringing you a terrific documentary film about a wonderful couple living a fabulous life on their farm in Norway, and then everything goes south and how the family tries to adapt. And let's right away say hello to the filmmaker, who is Silje Evensmo Jacobsen. Silje, hi, how are you?
Hello, Chuck. Nice to be here with you.
Where are you speaking from? What city are you in, and where are you?
Yeah, I'm in Oslo. I'm hiding at my daughter's room, hoping she won't burst in because it's Friday evening in Norway. But I think I'm good for now.
Oslo in Norway, you are, right?
Yes.
Is that what you said? How old is your daughter?
She's 9, and I have a son that's 7.
Not that different in a way from the film that we're going to talk about now, which is called A New Kind of Wilderness. And on the surface, like I began to say, it's about this perfect couple named Maria and Nick. She is a professional photographer. She loves taking pictures of her family, but obviously she makes a living taking still photos, and she's gone to school and is a terrific photographer, and they live what seems in some ways like the perfect rural farm life. And then it's not really a spoiler alert because it happens in the first 5 minutes of the film. Do you want to tell us what happens and where we go from here a little bit in the film?
Yeah, they have built this idyllic place for themselves. They chose a different path, a different lifestyle from what's common, at least in Norway, and they were so dependent on each other. And then Maria dies, and the whole world, the world as they know it, turns upside down. They need Nick. He's from England, so he doesn't have the roots in Norway, but they need to find a new path in their life, so adjust more to the modern society, but as well going through grief. So this is their journey that I follow.
So, when I was thinking about this film, which to me is so moving, so well made, by the way, so emotional and wonderful on many levels and painful on some other levels, obviously. But when I was teaching in the college level, I would always say when we would look at films, I would say to the kids, what is this film about? Not what happens in this film. What is this film about?
I know, and this, it's what you say is like, even though you make the film yourself and you should know, it's like, it's, I think always it's the hardest question to get. And I've talked about this film so many times, and the thing is, for me, the film is got many levels, and it always has been. It's a quite simple but yet complicated story. It's about love, it's about life, it's about death, it's about finding meaning to life when everything turns upside down. It's about sisterhood, it's about living close to nature, it's to be present with your children, it's to choose your own path. So it is what I find amazing when I've screened the film with the audience from all over the world, that they see the film from where they're self at. They experience the film from their own life, and they take out the meaning of what's the film about in those different levels. And I think that's amazing that you can experience it in so many levels.
It's very interesting that you said that people experience it from their own perspective, because I totally agree. And it made me think about my childhood and growing up. And in some ways, my childhood was completely different because we grew up, of course, in a city. But my father died when I was 14, and my younger brother was 12. And just recently, my brother and I have talked a lot about how if we had sat down and thought about the impact on our lives, I think we would have, not that we weren't grieving, we were totally grieving. We loved our father. He was fabulous. But I don't think we ever sat down and said, boy, this is going to change our life in so many ways, ways that we can't even imagine. And fortunately, I mean, not to get onto my life, but my mother was fabulous, and she picked up the mantle and kept our family together and kept us, all together until we went off to college. And I think your film, by the way, is about obviously how a family adapts when things go sideways. And
that's what I mean.
Maria had been photographing the family, I assume, before you ever got involved. There the moments, like when they got engaged, before they had the 4 children.
Yeah. She was an amazing photographer. She took photos from their life, and that's how I met her in the first place. That I was amazed by the way she told us simple stories from their everyday life, but through her lens and through her words, and that was really captivating. And as you say, like with your experience as well, I think the whole, because of course it's about living off the grid, it's living close to nature, but it's what do you do when you lose the most important person in your life? And you can find a way out, but it's hard, and people don't talk about it, and family, even though this family as well, they were so open, but it's hard to talk about it, and they grieve in different ways. A 10-year-old grieved different from her father, from her sister, and how their relationship. I think that was also very interesting to follow in this in the film.
At what point in the story did you start making the film? When did you find them? Was it before or after she died? And
yeah, I met them 10 years ago, and then Maria lived because of she had this blog with her photos and stories from their life, trying to be self-sufficient, homeschooling and everything, and I wanted to make a TV series. So I met her and I pitched this for the national broadcaster in Norway, and I made this small pilot from their life. It didn't come through, and we just kept in touch. And after 4 years, then I realized she was sick, and a couple of months later she died. So a couple of months after this, I called Nick and I said, I know you're in pain now, and maybe this is weird that I'm calling you, but I still want to make the film. I want to make the film with her visions, her values, her photographs, but now it's a different story. Can I follow you in this? And he said yes. And I know that was because he knew that Maria would have wanted to. And he knew me from the one time I met them 5 years earlier. So that's why I was bold enough or dumb enough, to call a grieving man at that point. But I'm very happy that I did. And I know that they are too. Even though it was hard during filming, many times he was like, what am I doing? Letting her film my family in the toughest period of our life.
What did the filming crew consist of? Because they were completely invisible fly on the wall. You were never aware of them being there and being filmed. So I assume it was a very, very small crew.
Yeah. It was, they were used to having Maria with her camera. So that was like for me, who also film a lot myself, it was very easy to film them because they were so natural. They didn't need to act. They didn't feel like to make something up for me being there. They was just being themselves. And it was also during COVID, some of the filming. So that made it only needed to be me. I couldn't be more. So it was kind of luck in a way that it was only me, because when I'm alone with the camera just following them, you get so much more intimate scenes and they know me. And I had a DOP with me some days when it was more things happening, but I think 60% it was only me.
And so now getting into the geeky woods part, what kind of camera were you using? What did you do for audio?
Yeah, it's Sony FX6. I used easy to handle when you're alone and with the focus and everything, and it's also good for dark, like because it's good with lightning. And then I have this extra thing on that allows me to have like 3 microphones, and I can use the
wireless.
The mic on the camera. And when I had the camera person with me, then I use a Zoom recorder that I hold myself. Very simple, but basic stuff that works. And then I take the sound. Because as a director, I need to know what's going on. I need to know what my protagonists are talking about. And I need to be on all the time. So I always do the sound if I don't film myself.
And when you started making the film, did you have a commitment from the network there in Norway, or where was the financial backing from, and when did it come in?
No, I started actually because I just knew that I wanted to do this. So I started without money. I was borrowing a camera from a really nice producer friend of mine. And then I applied for grant, and it just came along during the way. So, and it started off more like an art project, following them for 1 year, following the children. But then I knew it was, after filming them, I knew it was the story, the relationship between the 2 sisters who had a hard time finding back to each other after losing their mom. I found that was the key story. And also Nick, this morning father, could he go out the grief and, would he stay in Norway, would he move, all the things he was going through. So so I didn't have anybody who had meanings or wanted to to tell me what I was going to follow. It just came along, and the story, and yeah,
the scene, I'm going to get emotional, but I found the scene between the 2 sisters was very moving.
Yeah, I love them, Freya and Ronja. They're so meaningful for me, and it was also hard. I love them, being with them, and I just saw these really young, beautiful girls, and nobody helped them to communicate, and they were struggling on site, and it was hard not to get involved and say, "Can you please just sit down and talk?" And I was like, Can I also make them talk together? But they weren't. And then Ronja said, I want to write her a letter, and I want you to film me with it. And I'm like, I was so happy that she did it, because that opened. She wrote her sister a letter just explaining why everything was so hard, and it opened up so much for them. And this happens at the end, and I think, and just see as well, seeing them meeting for the first time in several months. The older sister missed her younger sister. They're half sisters, so that's why the older sister moves from the farm when her mother dies, because it's not natural for her to live with her siblings and her stepfather. So when she come back to the farm where she was living with her half sister, I just see them really having problems to talk. And I remember I started, could you talk about this? Could you talk about that? And then like, what are you doing? You just, right now, you just need to observe them, because they don't find the language to talk together. It was hard for them. And then I knew they need to talk together. They struggle to get it. And this is a really emotional and interesting story to follow. So yeah, I love them.
How old were the 2 girls at the time of the letter towards the end of the film?
I think Freya, the youngest one, she was 9 when I started. I think she was 12 or 13 then, and Ronja was 17. So it was 5 years between them. So Ronja was 17, 18, and Freya were 12 or 13, around that age.
Well, here's an unfair question. Did they latch on to you sort of a mother replacement in some ways, do you think? Because you're kind of like the same age, and you're not that different looking in a way than their mom was, right? I mean,
Yeah. I remember the first time I came to visit them after Maria's death, and then I hadn't seen them for many years. We were just going to talk about me starting filming. I remember Wolfie, the youngest one, he was 4 years old. He was taking my hands just so naturally and walking up, and I felt so emotional because I'm like, I'm coming here, I'm going to film them like their mother, and he took my hand. But I think that was about it, because I think I was more like a friend or like an older sister and auntie in some way. Because my role was so, even if I was filming, my role was so different from Maria's. So no, but I know that, especially for Rania, the oldest one, I know that having me there talking with me was something that she really appreciated and needed. And so I know that they also, and they find me annoying as well, being there talking about all the hard stuff. So, but even though, no, never as a replacement, I think more like somebody we got who could be there for them.
And now, what is it, 2 or 3 or 4 years since the end of filming? And how are they doing now, the family?
Yeah, I think it's more or less 3 years since last shooting, something like that. No, they're doing really well. They have been traveling around the world because I am so lucky. I get invited to all these amazing festivals all around the world, and I have a job and I have my children, and I can go on all of them, and they go instead of me, and because they get invited then. So they go on, and they're on stage and meet people from all around the world and talk about their experience, and they love it. They say yes to everything and jump on it. And I think this has been a really, like, the film has been a process, and the life after the film has been a process for them. And Ronja is living in Oslo now. I meet her sometimes going for a coffee, and Freya is going to high school, and Nick is working at the farm where we rent the house that we see in the film. And he's actually taking his sons out from school again to wild them up a bit, as you say. But they're doing good, and they're and the film has been good for them. So you never know. But I'm so happy about that.
How long was the shoot? How many days of shooting, and what was the post-production process?
In total, I filmed for 3 years, and it was 2 years that I filmed most. Like, I came a lot to them, and I think I had about 100 days in total, and maybe around, no, it wasn't 100 days. It was less days. It was 120 hours, I think. And around like 50 days or something, 40 days.
There was another moment in the film that was sort of stunning in some ways, is when the older, not the oldest sister, but the older one was in school, and she sort of confessed that she liked the TV, yeah. Where they had been kept on the farm. They weren't exposed to any television, and when they went to the school, they were exposed to the iPad and some television. And in a way, it was sort of shocking, wasn't it, to think it was almost like if he had kept them off of sugar, and when they went to school, the first thing they did was give them candy, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was very telling, and I don't know whether I liked it or I hated it, that she liked television.
But I think it's for my children as well. You can't, like, if they, as you say, if you give them sugar, they want more. And I think that even though they haven't seen television or anything, I think that will be the same for every child. So it was unavoidable for it, I think. And I knew that when they came home with the iPad, because I've seen her at school with the iPad, I knew that it would be a reaction. So I needed to just be there when it happened. And it's kind of nice that they sit in the living room, they get this iPad from school, and Nick comes in, and you just can see his face, and like, okay, I didn't sign for this. How am I gonna grasp this? And people say, is this staged? I'm like, no, but I knew that he would come in there and act like that, and he wouldn't be angry or anything. He'd be like, okay, turn that off. And I think every parent can recognize themselves in that situation, even if you are in a home with a lot of technology or not.
What's the distribution of this film outside of Norway and inside?
We have a Danish distributor, DR Sales, who have like sold the film territorially, So it's for like each country. So you can see it in the UK on the stream or BBC or there, and you can see it in at POV in the US, which is like a channel with like.
Is there a date of that release that you know of?
25th of August.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Silje. I loved the film. I thought the film was, and I thought the person that you hired to do the music really added a feel for what was going on there. That was so right, and so moving, and so emotional.